Hi, I'm Crystal Dawn Rios. Welcome to Awkwardly Zen Deep Dive into Vedic Astrology. And I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so happy for this connection and to be here with you all. Thank you for clearing your calendar to take this deep dive with us and co-create this next hour and a half of discovery and playfulness and exploration with this topic of Jyotisha. Jyotisha, which is Sanskrit for the eye of wisdom. And so this is our conversation about Vedic astrology and how Vedic astrology is similar and different to Western astrology. And again, thank you for showing up. Please interrupt me. Please type in the chat comments and suggestions. Make this interactive. Make this fun for yourself. This is a come as you are party. So if you need to be nursing your baby, or if you need to be making dinner, or if you are in the bathtub, I am happy to hang out with you in this Zoom space where you can be and come as you are. So I'm going to share my screen. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone personally. Is it right if I say everybody's names? Thank you, Ari, for having me. Jilly, nice to meet you. Nicole, Wonder Bear, Prithvi, Mariah, I think that's how it's pronounced. Katrina, thanks for coming. Valerie, Trudy, Lilith, Jennifer, Abby, Elaine, Anna, Amber, Mike, Robin, Lori, Kathy. Your presence is thumbs up is a thumbs up. Your presence is 2 thumbs up for my big heart over here. I'm in Austin, Texas right now. I've been traveling since April last year. That was my big COVID present to myself, to move out of my house and live in different places for a couple months at a time. And my family's from Texas, so here I am. And I'd love for you to type in the chat where you are. Most of you are probably in the local area of Denver, but I would love to still, if you've got chat capacity. Oh, cool, Sunset, Utah. Salt Lake City, yum, Minneapolis, all right. Thank you so much for your willingness to be curious and show up here today. I like to start things by asking for like a contract. So that the way my contract works is, oh, Prescott, Arizona, nice, in AZ. So are you willing to have a good time today? That's the first question of my contract. Are you willing to learn and discover what you most want and need to learn in the realm of Jyotisha, of Vedic astrology? And do I have permission to assist you in that learning? Good, hearts. And I'm also committing to, and I'm willing to learn what I most want and need to learn in the area of facilitating this with you and about astrology in general. I am someone who never, ever, ever thought I would ever be an astrologer. Like, oh, that's too complicated. That stuff is like, I don't even believe in that stuff. Like astrology, okay. But I've always dabbled, I've always kind of been a dabbler. And then with COVID, my big pivot was my Sanskrit teacher offered a Jyotisha class. And so I took her Jyotisha training and have been loving the discoveries and the healing art of Jyotisha, how it helps me for my own chart and others to become the witness, to kind of like rise out of the like focus and be able to look from a new perspective, or look from a perspective of the enlightened eye of wisdom. So now for real, I'm gonna share my screen. I also feel like Jyotisha has been really helpful for me in making choices and creating balance in my life. So I wanted to share that with you all as a practice. And then big thanks to Dr. Katie Jane, she's my teacher for Jyotisha, and then Doctors Gay and Katie Hendricks. I'm a Big Leap coach certified through the Hendricks Institute, and I'm on the Restoring Resourcefulness faculty with the Foundation for Conscious Living, which is all Hendricks practices. And so part of this creating balance and creating choices is what I've learned from Katie and Gay. So I always love to thank you to my teachers. So how do you all create balance? You're welcome to put in the chat how you do that, or you can even unmute yourself and talk and speak into the room if you have some ideas that are effective for sharing right now. I know one of the things that we do in Hendricks land and in my own life is just presence ourselves. So to create balance in this context right now, I invite you all to presence yourself the best way you can. So I'm a big fan of using the breath to presence, feeling my feet on the ground to presence myself. I like to use presencing like as a verb. So presencing yourself. Mariah says that their ongoing practice is having a group of input activities and output activities and knowing what's needed in that moment and then pull from that category. I love that because that's balancing in itself. Like, how do I balance introversion, extroversion, ingoing, outgoing? Love this. I also love balancing my internal experience. Like, we're here, these little heads in these little boxes right now. And for me, presencing is my whole body, like bringing my head down into my body and feeling messages that are body experience, body intelligence. So I invite you all right now to presence yourself by dancing all the way down into your body. Yes, also dancing, Mariah. See if you can create awareness of your body. Yes, Robin, Tree of Life is good for balance. Being able to like study and learn about all of the Tree of Life practices. So what we're going to do today is look at differences between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. We're going to discover how the patterns that we're seeing in the planets and stars can be a mythology for how we live. I'm going to be listening to my intuition too, Jilly. Listening to intuition is one of the greatest ways to create balance. You know, sometimes our body impulses, our intuitions are like, yeah, let's go, let's do this, let's do that. And then other times it's, you know, that meditating and those walks in nature and naps. So thank you, Jilly, for typing that in the chat. We're also gonna look at more ways to balance, like how do you balance work and play and me time, family time? How do you balance science and superstition, astronomy, astrology? Probably one of my favorite practices that's born out of Jyotisha, that's born out of Vedic astrology, but also a big Hendricks practice is how to get in alignment with what is. and how we discover that like most of our suffering is born out of like something's wrong, like arguing with reality, arguing with what is. So I want to share that practice with you all too. And then one of my favorite, this is like the practice that gets me through any kind of political upset, you know, any kind of like, if somebody has a different viewpoint than me or is living their life in a different way than I am living my life, right? We all have different ways of being, is this practice of filing, which is filing things you can change and control with the things you cannot influence and change and control. So yes, Elaine, to balance, muscle testing, energy clearing, getting help too. Raquel? Mercury retrograde. Yeah, we just have another day or so of that. So in the chat, did everybody see Aries' note about our stickers? Make sure that you buy a Pride Month limited edition sticker, because all of the proceeds are going to go to Stonegate Community Foundation. Somehow Raquel's, I think it's Raquel. I don't know. I don't want to point fingers, but that's the only one that's not muted. Okay, yeah, let's hang up and try again. All right, so let's dive into Jyotisha. Anybody have anything you want to express about what you want to experience today? Because balance to me is also balancing what you experience with what you express. So please, if you've got some expectations for today or something that you really want to know about, please type it in the chat or unmute yourself and interrupt me and share, express anything that you might want to get out of our time together today. This is the Tree Yantra. And what was very exciting to me from the beginning of Jyotisha is I learned from my chanting teacher. So my Sanskrit teacher is a Jyotisha. And so I found Jyotisha through chanting the Lalita Sahasranam, which is like 1,000 names of the Divine Mother and the Goddess. And so I'm chanting these mantras all my like yoga career, because I'm also a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher trainer. And, you know, so I do like Ganesha mantra and all these mantras, and then realizing that it's very connected to the healing light of Jyotisha. Jyotisha is really awakened insight. It's born out of the Vedas, which are like the oldest written documentation, and it's also like cosmology. It's also part of cosmology, is like the story of creation, stories of creation. And I like and love how, like, after my first Jyotisha reading, after my first Vedic astrology reading, I went from like thinking I was going to get a divorce and, you know, do I want to be in this marriage, to getting this right perception. And that alignment of my mind and my perception is Jyotisha. And that is what happens when you get a reading. You get this like perception that is healing in itself. So Jyotisha, that's a Sanskrit word. Vedic astrology, right? It's born out of Sanskrit. And I was a Jyotishi born out of Sanskrit chanting. My teacher, you know, I didn't even know really that she taught Vedic astrology. There is something about us knowing everything already. Like every one of us here already knows everything in the capacity that we are connected to everything. And so Jyotisha helps awaken that within your own nervous system. Jyotisha is also about the impulses of light and sound, the impulses of creation at their source, and how we can make meaning out of that. What I look at when I'm reading your chart is how you are imprinted at birth by the planets, by the stars. This imprint is like I think of like a 3D printer, you know. It's like part of the machine that makes us. If there is a machine, is the vibration of the planets and the stars and the light and the sound. So the way it's been passed down, Jyotisha, even Western astrology works too. It's like these systems that have been passed down of looking at how we are imprinted. In Jyotisha, it's like and in India in general, there's this idea of dharma and karma, that we already who we are going to be. We already are who we are in the future at birth. Like there is no past, present, future time. It's all right now. Jyotisha also means light of God and represents that inner light that we all possess. And it's like the spark that animates our existence. So really the differences are vast and similar. It's really kind of a choice how you're determining. It's systems that were taught and shared from forever ago. And one of the main differences is that in Vedic astrology, it's based on the sidereal sky. It's based on, like, if I took my sky map on my phone and I looked up at the time of your birth, or if I looked in the east at the time of your birth, the star that is rising there would show up in your chart. That's the sidereal sky. That's, you know, it takes into account the wobble of the Earth's axis. Tropical zodiac is more symbolic. It's based on the Gregorian calendar, and so the constellations are fixed. It's a fixed zodiac. The 12 signs are 0 degrees Aries is right there, you know, starting in April. And I guess so in Western astrology, in the beginning, Babylonian times, or like times where like Augustus Caesar and they're August and Julia, you know, Julius Caesar and Augustus, there's July and August, they're making meaning out of the planets and stars. They're looking for patterns. And so the system that was created with Western astrology it's still the same print of the sky back then, but it also is very sun-centered. So our idea that one is better than the other, or one is more effective, or one is more accurate, I want to just wipe that from your perception, because they all work, both Vedic and tropical. But then there's also the Mayan calendar and their system. There's so many systems that work, that give us healing, a change and shift in our perspective, the idea that we have these idiosyncrasies and these patterns and these ways of being that are unique to us, but also unique to our lineages, unique to our families. So in Jyotisha, though, we have these ancient seers, these rishis, these Vedic priests in India who who saw and heard the patterns of the stars and planets. And that's how they developed the Sanskrit alphabet, is they saw and heard the vibration. And so Sanskrit words are the vibration of what, so for example, Shanti. Say that to yourself. Shanti. Shanti. Anybody know what Shanti means? It means peace. So as you say Shanti, you are vibrating out your mouth the vibration of peace. So this is my chart. This is a South Indian style of chart reading. And this is an example of the sky map of the moon in Capricorn at the time, like the exact time. Oh no, this is not my chart, sorry. At the exact time, this is a birthday in 1987. This is, the moon is in Capricorn. Can you see MO, 22 degrees Capricorn? So that's how it works, basically. Vedic astrology, we look up at the sky, there's the sky map, and there's your star, and it's moon-based. So that Western astrology is sun-based. And 30, 31 days in a month. Vedic astrology is moon-based, the lunar calendar. Any questions? Anything that you'd like to share in the... Okay. Another moment of presencing. I like to constantly bring myself back to my feet, back to my body. Like we get up in our heads and we're like, okay, what's all this information up here? But where I find really clear intuition comes from is a whole body listening, a whole body experience of the moment. All right, so one of the biggest differences between Jyotisha and tropical Western astrology, or even sometimes the difference between Jyotisha, like a lot of Vedic astrology readings do not include the nakshatras, the 27 eternal, fixed, non-changing light that is also sound stars. So each nakshatra has a set of stars that one star or a set of stars. It really depends on the nakshatra. Also in Vedic astrology, we look at the ascendant, which is the lagna. Lagna means rising core essence. Actually, lagna means intersection point. So the point, the moment, the degree where the soul came in. Like if the soul came in from the sky, this is the lagna. In Western astrology, it's based on the calendar, right? So that winter solstice, spring equinox, summer solstice, which is tomorrow. We're feeling a shift probably with this. Well, today, Jupiter goes retrograde, and tomorrow is the summer solstice. So there's some things happening. So you might not really feel it, but whenever there is a change, oftentimes that's when we feel it the most. So yeah, the Western astrology is based on the seasons. And because I'm born June 4th, I'm always going to be a Gemini. But in Vedic astrology, my nakshatra is Anuradha. And one of my dearest, dearest friends, also born on June 4th, is not Anuradha. And that's exciting to me to see, like, okay, so we, like, I really do feel like me and my other friend born on June 4th are like exactly the same in so many ways, but there's some differences, some key differences. And then when I look at our nakshatras, those differences show up, and that's how I can see, like, okay, these are just a little, there's some definition, there's some, like, if you take something blurry and make it right in focus, that's to me how the nakshatras work. And I mean, we look at the ascendant in Western astrology, definitely. We look at the moon sign. Like, for years, I was like, oh, I'm Virgo moon, Gemini sun sign, and Sagittarius rising. And so I would make sense for myself out of those Western astrology signs. And I still do, to an extent. I still like look at Western astrology and mainly in a way just to gather information, because Anuradha, which is my nakshatra, she is the love of learning and longing for God. And that just makes me always wanting to pray and study. So each nakshatra has one of those phrases that kind of like guides the perception about that nakshatra. One thing that's cool about Vedic astrology is that all the planets have a male pronoun. They're like, so Mars is he, Sun is he. Even Moon and Venus are he in Vedic astrology, which is a big difference, because I feel like in Western astrology, Moon, mother, or, you know, there's Sun, father, Moon, mother. And that might not even be Western astrology. That might be other realms of conversation. Presence yourself again, feel your feet on the ground, maybe put your hand on your body somewhere to be like, oh yeah, I do have a body. I'm not just up in my head like, some more differences. In Vedic astrology, the ancients, those ancient rishis, they set up this system, and it has lasted like the Sanskrit chanting that has, you know, that is so much of Jyotisha, also of Vedic astrology, has been preserved, like guarded ferociously by the seers, by the priests, by the Vedic, the monks who walk in their loincloths naked in ashes in the snow up to the Himalayas, to the Himalayas. So that's a huge thing in itself. Like, this stuff has been guarded and preserved. In Western astrology, the ancient Greeks actually used the sidereal sky to create their understanding of the patterns of the stars and planets. And it wasn't until 8th, 9th century that the ancient Greek translations into Arabic kind of reconstituted into more of what Western astrology is now. And in Vedic astrology and Jyotisha, it's really a whole culture experience. In India, they don't separate it from Ayurveda, which is their medical system in India. They don't, it's part of yoga. It's part of the whole culture. It's part of Indian thought. It's part of the study of connecting cosmic mind to our limited minds, eternal thought, connecting to and studying eternal thought. But I mean, I definitely have some big church family friends who are like, astrology is the devil's work, y'all. Like, so it's in Western astrology, it's quite, it's quite opposed to our, the Christian culture or even medicine. Like, it's not like, there's nowhere in the States where you would go to your doctor and the doctor would say, well, let's not do that surgery until Mercury retrograde's over. But in India, they do. They watch these things, and there's timings, and that timing of karma, that timing of your dharma. It's a spiritual practice in India and with Vedic astrology. So, in addition to the 27 nakshatras, that's one of the main differences. There's these periods of planetary influences. They're called dashas. They're cycles, they're sequences. It's based on the moon, where the moon was at the time of your birth, which star it lines up with. And then there's a specific number, like, of years that go with each planetary period of influence. So this is something fun too to explore, like what dasha are you in? What period of planetary influences is touching your life right now? Like right now, let's see, last week I'm in a Rahu dasha, which is all about illusions. Rahu is not really a planet, but it's the north node of the moon. And those are also two differences in Vedic astrology, is that Rahu and Ketu are planets. And Rahu is the north node of the moon, Ketu is the south node of the moon, and they are responsible for the eclipses. So you can only see them during an eclipse, basically, which is how they are still considered visible planets and a visible part of the sky, which is where Vedic astrology places most of its attention. So last week, so there's these big periods of planetary influence, and then there's a sub-dasha. So I'm in my big Rahu. This is like 17-year period of planetary influence. But I just shifted from Rahu Jupiter to Rahu Saturn last Saturday. And it's like the hour hand is Rahu, and then the minute hand is Saturn. And so this kind of tweaking of influence in my life was super obvious. I woke up last Saturday and all I wanted to do was like study and read. And, I was like, is this Saturn? Is he like saying, hey, let's get in there and build what lasts? That's Saturn. He likes to build what lasts. And Jupiter, he's like the guru. He's like the one who wants to guide and teach, but not in a disciplinarian taskmaster kind of way, how Saturn is. Jupiter's more of an expansive teacher. So it's a little image of that precession of the equinox. It gives us the rotation of the earth on its axis, and how every 700 years, the way the stars look in the sky shifts 10 degrees. And it's almost 24 degrees now from the beginning of the Western tropical zodiac, the fixed stars there. And so like tomorrow, we're going to be the closest to the sun that we're going to be all year. And in the winter, we're the furthest. And 13,000 years from now, Polaris right now is the zenith, it's the zenith of the North Pole. but 13,000 years from now, the zenith of the North Pole will be somewhere around Vega, the star Vega. So how I explain to myself so many things, including I'm a Gemini. No, I'm Scorpio rising. No, I'm Sagittarius rising. How I explain that is perfectly written by Walt Whitman. I am large and contain multitudes. It can all be true. It can all exist in the same field. And that's how I can be happy and loving life and traveling and feeling so blessed during COVID times, and still be heartbroken and grieving and sad that we were having this global pandemic. So it's the capacity for both, and it's the capacity for, yes, this is true, and I contradict myself, this is true also. So that's how I invite you to perceive some of the ways that Western astrology works and Vedic astrology works. Presencing yourself again. Give yourself a moment to maybe squeeze your muscles on your bones. Feel into the deepest part of who you are. Feel into your belly. Wiggle around a little bit. How do you presence yourself to create balance in your life? Take a drink of water. Take a drink of breath, of oxygen. Be with yourself in a way that is compassionate and generous and friendly. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. If you have any feedback for me, if you want me to speed it up or slow down, or if you want me to say more about a certain conversation I started, but maybe didn't continue to your to the completion of what you wanted to hear about what I said about the differences, please unmute yourself and speak into the room, or type it in the chat if you have any feedback or questions.
Crystal, just for perspective, how long did it take you to learn all of this?
Y'all, this was my pivot. I started studying Jyotisha in April of last year. So anytime I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, I start reading my Jyotisha books, or I find one of the Jyotishas that I follow on YouTube and I'm watching their videos. And yeah, so for perspective's sake, I'm still a new Vedic astrologer, and I feel like I've known all of this my whole life, because part of what Dr. Katie Jane teaches is use your intuition. Like, yes, there are all these books, and yes, I've just given you all this information about the nakshatras and the planets, and Jyotisha really is looking at a chart and seeing what you see with the intuitive eye, with the feeling and sense. And yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just also, for people who are not like maybe understanding everything that you're talking about right now, that because the concepts are different than a lot of what a lot of people have heard about astrology for a long time. So to think about it in a different way, it can take a little bit of time, but it's lovely to hear that you have gained so much knowledge so quickly.
Yeah, I'm a newbie. Plus, I've been practicing yoga for a long, long time, and taught yoga for a long time. I took my yoga teacher training in 2009. So a lot of I feel so grateful to India for everything I've learned through yoga, through my teachers and not just the physical aspects of yoga, not just the postures of yoga, but yoga philosophy, karma and dharma, and all of the gods and goddesses. And I have a question here about books. I have an incredible book list. I am happy to put my book list in the chat. It's a Word file, so I'll grab that in a little bit and bring it on in. Robin asks, is it possible to do Western astrology using the sidereal sky? And she says, some Western astrologers find that tropical astrology reflects the person's inner world and the sidereal astrology reflects the person's outer world. Yeah, I feel like there is a lot of conversation about this as far as inner, outer, moon, sun, you know, because I've heard it argued the other way that tropical zodiac is with the sun, it's connected to everything that the sun represents, right? The sun is the father, the sun is the boss. He's like the man, the captain of the team. He likes to be in charge. So if we're looking at our sun sign and tropical zodiac, how do we like to be in charge? The way a Gemini likes to be in charge. How do I like to be the captain of the team? The way Gemini does that. So I don't know. I invite you to experiment with the both and, like, take your sidereal chart and read it with a tropical lens, the Western tropical lens. I like the idea of using both because it does create a range of possibility. Also, one of the ways that I studied tropical zodiac or Western zodiac was like, okay, these are all my Gemini friends. These are all the people and these are all the things that are kind of like alike. These are similar in their personalities. And so like, oh, you're a Gemini, you're like all my Gemini friends. So that's one way that I've been playing with Jyotisha. Oh, you're Anuradha also, so you're like me. So that's one way I've been playing with it. Julie, you've got your hand raised, your digital hand. Please unmute yourself and ask.
You were talking about how in the Indian culture, they actually use it like in medicine and all this kind of stuff. I'm just curious, do they teach it in school? Like, is it part of the regular curriculum? How do they know?
I don't know that, but I do know that in India there's like people name their children based on their sign. There's Sanskrit bij sounds. Maybe somebody else has the answer for this question, but I know that in the schools they teach Sanskrit. They teach the Sanskrit alphabet.
Huh.
Yeah, so I'm Indian, so I want to answer.
Thank you, please. I was hoping.
Yeah, so yeah, we don't learn this in school, but like our parents, they like whenever new, as you said, like when a child born, they know which nakshatra they are in, and each nakshatra has letters, so they name their child based on their letters, and then they tell like we see like our signs, like we follow the moon signs. So for example, even though I'm Aquarius in a Western side, my moon sign is Taurus. So like in a newspaper, whenever our parents talk about like, okay, this is your moon sign, and we see your emotional side according to that, like, I don't know. And like, it just comes from our grandparents and like generations, like we don't study in school.
Yeah, but everybody talks about it, right? Everybody know what sign are you, and then they say their moon sign, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And also by the name, like we can figure it out. Okay, their name starts with P, that means they are this sign, like, so they know that from there.
Yeah, because there's there's 4 sounds that go with each of the 27 nakshatras. So depending on your nakshatra, and then depending on which degree within the nakshatra, then that means you're either pada 1, 2, 3, or 4. So it gets very specific, and it's a pretty cool way of thinking of how you would name your child. Valerie asks, how do you describe Jyotisha? Is it a religion? Hinduism is the spiritual medicine of India. And Jyotisha is like the medicine of the planets and stars. The way that the planets and stars can give us meaning through their mythologies, through the stories, through the cosmologies, and help us make meaning out of our marriages now, out of our if there's struggles, or if there's how is this person so lucky and they're living off inheritance, and why do I have to work so hard? Things like this can show up in our charts. So no, Jyotisha is not a religion. Vedic astrology is not a religion. Yoga is not a religion. And there are practices that feel like they would be considered religious practices, like chanting. Like my recovering Catholic, I chanted the rosary growing up. That was my religion. I was Catholic, but I'm chanting these Sanskrit words, but it's not my religion. And I love the feeling that my body gets when I say Shanti, when I say Om. I feel it in my nervous system. And so I take it more as like medicine rather than religion. And yes, absolutely, I use these tools, Elaine, for my spiritual journey. I think that's part of why I'm here. Is I've always been into, I would get so mad at my parents when they wouldn't wake up and take me to mass, when they wouldn't take me to church when I was like 9 years old, like, get up, I have to go to church. And that same drive, my 9-year-old self drive is what drives my curiosity and fascination with the universe, with the unseen, with the unknown, with meditation and prayer and chanting. Robin is saying that she doesn't think tropical astrology has to create a sun-centered lens, that it's often been done that way in modern astrology, but that it's changing as approaches become more flexible. And the system, that she doesn't think the system demands it if you don't want to focus on your sun sign, which she doesn't, which I also agree. Putting people in these little boxes of their sun sign just because they're born on June 4th, there's other aspects to look at. There's asteroids and all of the conjunctions and the ways that planets show up kind of geometrically in the chart. There's so many ways to perceive how tropical astrology, Western astrology works. And I am not I don't know all of the aspects of tropical astrology as far as aspecting planets and using Chiron and the outer planets. That's a big difference in Vedic astrology and tropical astrology. It's more like newer Vedic astrology to look at Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Like those planets we don't even talk about as much. And I mean, they show up on my computer program, my Vedic astrology computer program, but my teacher was saying that we don't even really look at those as much. But they're a huge deal in tropical. Like they, you know, there's a lot of perspectives that people can look to. So here are the 27 nakshatras. And there are 2.25 within each one of the 12 zodiac. So that's how I'm Anuradha, and that sits in Scorpio. The nakshatras are also called lunar mansions. I'm trying to make this bigger, but it's not letting me. I guess you could probably zoom in on your own computer if you want to see this chart of the 27 nakshatras. On this outer ring, each one of the 27 nakshatras, the light that can never be destroyed, the light that is also sound, these stars are the 4 padas, which I was talking about. Those 4 people name their child after one of the 4. And it's based on the planets, and it's based on the 12 zodiac and the rulers and the planets associated with each of the 12. So it's a really cool way of patterning. And I get excited about patterns. So talking about nakshatras, the moon moves through each of the 27 stars of the nakshatras every day, basically, and every day, day and a half. And it's part of that movement that activates a pattern. That's the storyline of the gods and the goddesses encoded in that light. And there are deities associated with each one of those stars. And the deities have their own mythologies and the symbolism and the feel of that particular deity, the energy of that particular constellation, the expression. So, for example, Anuradha, my rising star, means another Radha. Radha was one of Krishna's consorts, but she never got to marry him. She never got to marry Krishna. So that's where this longing comes from. This longing for God comes from, is her story of like never actually getting to marry him, but being able to be with him and being so in love with him and wanting. So that's one example of a deity's divine expression giving symbolism to my life, which has been very helpful whenever I feel like kind of dissatisfied or wanting more or longing for something. I remember, oh yeah, I'm Anuradha. I'm always going to have this longing. It's a part of this, the aspect of the deity there. These life stories, these deities' life stories, are encoded within these ancient eternal stars. And even though we can't even see them, we can feel them in a way. And the way it has been passed down is through the Puranas, the body of myths. So I really like to get readings when it's my birthday. I like to see, see what's current in the stars and planets, and how that might be touching my life. And thanks, Mike. We'll see you next time. Part of what helps when you're getting a reading is the idea of right thought, right action, alignment with your perception. So a baby's born, we project onto that baby that they're a boy or a girl. We project on that baby that it's an ugly baby or a cute baby or a smart baby or a fussy baby or a good baby or a bad baby. So these things get projected onto us from the time we are born. And so a lot of times we're adjusting ourselves all through junior high. We're like adjusting ourselves to like try and fit in or be who we are expected to be. And that may or may not like resonate with who we are at that highest light. And so getting a reading, you get a little insight into who you are at your highest light. And it's kind of like just getting a little chiropractic adjustment. So adjust yourself here in the moment, presence yourself, align yourself with your own breath, with where you're touching the earth with your feet or your bottom. So you can be in your body and present with each other and available. And that's what Jyotisha does. It helps you be in your body. Or in my practice, I like to help people locate themselves in their body, see how they can align their thoughts, their actions, their words, their feelings, so that everything in your life, in your jobs, in your relationship, with your kids, with your choices, there's this balance and alignment and this coming home to yourself. And how do you get in alignment with what is? How do you come home to yourself? There's this medicine in Jyotisha, in tropical astrology too, of becoming the witness, of rising out of like being in it and resonating with seeing yourself in your highest possibility, wondering into what's the best possible outcome, looking at yourself from a higher perspective. And that to me is the healing light of Jyotisha. So everyone go ahead right now and ask yourself the question, do I want a drink of water? And then how do you know yes or no? Was there something in your body sensations that told you that? This body yes and no to me is one of the best practices. Yes, and then give yourself that if you had a yes. This practice is one of the best ways to reinforce your own body knowing. And when you override a no, or if you don't give yourself something that you had a yes to, that creates dissonance. That creates that kind of disharmony that can be troublesome later, especially if there's like a little wobble in the beginning. It can become a big wobble later. And so my invitation to you is to ask yourself, when you ask yourself, do I want a drink of water? Ask yourself questions of like, do I want to play right now? And listen to that inner compass that says, oh, yes, I do, or no, I don't. Do I want to work right now? Yes, I do. No, I don't. And practice giving yourself only the things that you have yeses for and only the things you have no for. Like really commit to playing with what's yes and what's no for me, what's true for me, what's not true for me. And so you might have a total body no to Vedic astrology or Jyotisha. So follow that, you might have a total yes to, oh, I want to know my nakshatra. I want to know which star was rising in the east at the time of my birth. I want to know my rising sign in Vedic astrology. And so next, I want to invite you all, if I probably only have time for 1 or 2 volunteers, but if you know your time of birth and the location of your birth and are willing to have that in the public domain of information recorded here on this call, I invite you to type that into the chat with your birthday, those 3 things. And if you want to be my example, we're going to start moving into exploring examples. And so the way we're going to do it.
Crystal, let me interrupt real quick. Before we get going on that, and while everyone is gathering that information, and then we'll do a random draw, would you tell everyone a little bit about what you're offering to Awkwardly Zen members? And just in case we lose people as time goes on, because we've only got about 25 minutes left.
Yes, I am offering the first 5 people who schedule a reading with me 50% off. And to everyone who sees this call before the end of July, and everyone here 10% off my readings.
The end of June or the end of July?
Did I say July?
You did.
Let's do end of July. Anyone who sees this recording through the end of July gets 10% off. And my Square site is how you can book with me. I do online booking through Square site appointments, or you can email me. I'm happy to do, if you don't want a live reading, I'm happy to do like a recorded reading to give you your rising star. And we can have an email conversation about your birthday for that too, which you'll also, that'll be a 10% off also for anyone who's here. So Ari's gonna do a random draw for me as far as our chart reading goes. Yeah, you still have a little time to post in the chat if you want to be an example reading. If you want to know your nakshatra, that's basically what I'm going to share with you.
Okay. And again, so if you book with her, you have 50% off of the first 5 people who book. So that'll go today, you guys. So get on it if you want to do that. And then 10% off for everyone else until the end of July 2021. So if you're watching this in 2022, we love you very much. Go see Crystal anyway. She's on the Awkwardly Zen partner page on awkwardlyzen.com as well. But her booking thing is in the chat for those of you here. If you are watching this later, please go to awkwardlyzen.com onto the partners page on there, and you can see all of our awesome partners, including Crystal, on that page. So I have written down everybody. Let me get my random generator going. Okay. And that is going to be Misha.
All right, Misha.
Hi.
Let me go back up in the chat and find your birth information.
I was born 12:38 a.m. May 18th, 1964 in Denver.
Would you be willing to type that in the chat so I can just copy it over?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. Uh-oh, going slow.
Yeah, sorry.
No, my cosmic you can see my screen, right? I'm opening my dashboard for Cosmic Insights. It's like super slow on there. So I might just do it on the app on my phone. So 5/18/1964. Happy birthday. You just had a birthday recently.
I did.
So you're a Gemini too.
Taurus.
Oh, Taurus, right. 18 is Taurus.
Yeah.
Gemini happens on the 21st.
Yes.
1964.
So while she's doing this, let me just tell you that when I got my reading with her, because I knew nothing about Vedic astrology, it was great because Crystal was really good at explaining everything to me and walking me through it. And so I cannot wait to get my next reading with her to dig in deeper because it completely resonated with me.
Sweet.
Yeah. There's layers and layers and layers. And the more I learn, the more excited I get about what's there, because there's, in addition to the dasha, your planetary periods of influence, there's also what phase of the moon you're born in and the goddess that rules that phase of the moon and her story and how that can affect you. So I'm born on a half moon. And then there's mythology around that. And so there's just all these layers that I love discovering and sharing with people. All right, so I've got May 18th, 1964, 12:38 a.m. Denver is where you were born.
Yes.
You live in Denver?
Yes, I did. Well, Broomfield, but yes, I still live in the Denver
Cool.
area.
I was in Broomfield for 6 weeks. I love it in Broomfield. Oh, you're in your Rahu Dasha too. Dhanishta. Your rising star is Dhanishta, which here I've got some cards, which I'll hold up. Now, let me go ahead and just stop sharing so I can hold up your Dhanishta card so you can kind of get a feel from this card what
You're still sharing.
oh,
You want to stop that?
I
And then for
Stop
those of
share.
you who are watching her, if you put up the view in the corner of speaker, you'll be able to see Crystal big on your screen.
Oh, it's still you, Ari.
Okay, I probably just need to talk
There we
again.
go.
Yeah. So I'm looking at your first house. We decide our rising star by the first house, and this first house rising star is your embodiment, like your highest life's purpose, the core expression of who you are, the storehouse of gifts and talents, the impression that you give, but also the part of you that will never change. This star is like the most consistent aspect of yourself, and it's kind of like the reference point for all the other qualities. And then it's also a microcosm of the full expression of a person. And this rising core essence, this personality imprint, Dhanishta sits in Capricorn. So in Vedic astrology, your rising is Capricorn. And so anything you know about Capricorn, you can probably start to think about within the context of your storehouse of gifts and talents, within the context of your individuality and personality. And so Dhanishta has the power to give abundance and fame, and it's represented by the flute or the drum. So it's like a channel. The flute channels the wind and makes beautiful music. The drum is like, hey, we're having a wedding, beat the drum. Hey, like it's a way of inspiring dance and music and having so Dhanishta is the star of symphony. Dhanishta is the star of the most beneficent one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my rising sign. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Dhanishta is your nakshatra, your lunar node, or like the nakshatras are light that are also sound that is also light.
So when I was born, like, what would my parents have needed to use to name me if I was living in India? Or,
Ooh, you want to know your beige sound, B-I-J. Yeah, let me find it. So in India, my lineage, my teacher uses the rising star. In India, they use the moon. So you are pada 2 in Danishta. And so if we were using a rising star to name you, the 4 sounds of Danisha are ga, gi, gu, ga. It's when I'm chanting these, I say gum, gim, gum, game. So yours would be gi for GI for the second pada that you're born in, the specific degree. And if we were going by your moon star, how they do in India, your moon star is Magga. Magga, magnanimous. Magga, the magnificent one. Magga, the king on the throne who is a man but also a god. Like the ancient pharaohs of Egypt, they were men, but they were also gods. And Magga is the star of the throne. And also Magga has the power to leave their body and has incredible ties to ancestry, their ancestors, because of, to become a king, you have to be the son of a king, the first son of a king, right? So it's this ancestral lineage of Magga. And so you are born in the first of the 4 sections of Magga, and the sound that goes with that, Magga, the 4 sounds are mam, mim, mum, maim. So yours is ma, which is kind of cool. Your name is Misha, because you've got the 2 sounds in your name, ma, Misha, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so ma is your beach sound for the moon star.
interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. When I look at the specifics of the nakshatras, I like just to ask questions. I don't just like to say, okay, you are the most beneficent one. You have the power to give abundance and fame. I like to ask, like, have you ever tapped into this power to give abundance and fame? Have you ever, do you feel like there is an essence quality in yourself that is the beneficent one, the one that can receive the benefits of life, the blessings of life?
I'm starting to feel that way now. Up until this point, I've been the one who has always given everything because I was a teacher. And now I feel like I can start to receive some of the benefits as I start my newer path of teaching, but I can also receive as well. So yeah, now I'm starting to see that I can receive as well as give. So yeah, it's a total shift for me, definitely.
Do you feel like you are have concern for humanity as a whole, or
Well, that's been my entire life. I was a public school teacher in Denver, not in one of the suburbs, but yeah. So that, yeah. I mean, that was me. So,
Do you feel like you are a bit of a perfectionist or really pursue excellence?
yeah, me and my 4 college degrees. Yeah. just
And when you were, or just in general, do you like to build community? Do you like big teams around you, or like have relationships?
I like to build, yeah, I do like to build community, but I also I like to build community, but I also like to make sure something is done right. And if I feel like it's not done right, then I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
That's the perfectionist part
Yeah.
coming in. So,
And that could be part of your magha, the king, like
yeah.
no one else is going to lead my army the way I'm going to lead my army, so I'll just do it
True.
myself.
Yeah. True. No, that's, yeah. I'll put other people in charge of other things, but I'm going to keep charge of these other things. Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious if you've like had any students or anyone that you've taught that has become famous, because part of the Shakti, part of the like superpower of Danishta is the power to give abundance and fame, and it's in yourself too, like being abundant, like abundant, full.
I don't know. I don't know yet, because I actually was a college professor before I became a public school teacher. I know, I kind of went a different type of career path, but so I don't know yet. I'll have to, that's something I could look at a little bit. Yeah, but in my next phase of teaching that I'm working on right now, I think that's very definitely possible, that people will go on and have more recognition. Yeah.
I feel very excited about your chart because you are also in Rahu Saturn Dasha. We're in the same planetary period of influence, which is wild to me, that out of all the people who like put their birth information in the chat, you were the one that got the random number generator drawn, and we are the same. We have the same planetary influence, which is Rahu is like is all about illusions.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking you want something and then going for it, but then getting different results. And then, well, yeah. I thought I wanted that, but I guess I didn't, because I didn't get it that way. I got it this way. And then, yeah, is that something?
Yeah, no, I've gone for lots of things and okay, so I guess that wasn't it. Yes. Yeah.
And then Saturn is, you know, he makes you pay up front the interest for any loans that you get. Saturn is the disciplinarian taskmaster type of teacher. Saturn, he likes to teach us about death and karma.
Yeah, no, I've gone through the death of almost everyone in my family over the last 7-8 years. So yeah. Yeah, no, Saturn's been active. definitely. So yeah, I've paid the price up front already, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's time. It's my time now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so here, all of your family has decided to cross
Well,
over right now, and the teaching of that is so deep, right?
it was very deep.
Yeah. What we learn through grief is like we can't learn any other way.
No, no, and I've learned a lot through that, and through my learning and my work on myself after they passed, that I am not less than, because my parents especially were such huge figures, and well respected people, that yeah, it was impossible not to be in the shadows. So, to have stepped out of everyone's shadow, and be in my own light.
Yeah.
So,
Well, part of your own light is the wealthy and the famous, and this maturation of the soul, how it represents, all the life lessons of the human birth.
yay.
And part of yoga, they have these like siddhis, which are the yoga superpowers kind of thing. And Danishta represents these superpowers. So tapping into what's underneath, I see you tapping into what's underneath. And I appreciate you for being so transparent with us and being willing to share your birthday. And yeah, I thank you all for your attention. And there was one thing I said we were going to get to, and I'd like to do that now. So pretend you have a couple of files, 2 like manila folders. And so one is labeled things I can influence and control, and one labeled things I cannot influence or control. And just in your imagination, or you could even write down some things and put them in their folders. And pretend you're doing some filing. And this, to me, this practice of filing is how I stay out of drama. I stay even with my own like perceptions. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to control something I can't control. So I'm going to put that in the things I cannot control file, and I'm going to go on living my fullest expression of life, because that's what I'm here to do, is have a good time and lay in a hammock. And that's my moon sign, is the star that likes to lay in a hammock. So if anybody has any questions, we just have a couple minutes left. I'd love for you to, I'd love your feedback. I'd love for you to unmute yourself and ask any questions, or put it in the chat.
Well, I'm not seeing any questions. Let's see if that comes up there. Again, people can reach you with the information that I put over in the chat for booking with you. They can also reach you if you come up with a question. I'm sure that you can ask Crystal. She is very open. Hold on one second. Someone's asking if you answered Elaine's questions about using these tools on a spiritual journey. I believe you did say that you do use these tools on your spiritual journey. Is there more specificity that we need on that? Elaine, did you have any questions there? Okay, perfect.
I do.
Go ahead.
What did she say?
She said no, she was good.
Okay.
And then Ethan is asking what the difference is between a birth chart and a D9 chart.
Oh, there's so many. I use, there's so many different charts in Vedic astrology. I use the D1. The D9 is your Navamsha chart, which can be used in And I just recently discovered this and I got very excited because my star was like even better than Anuradha. I was like, oh, you mean I get to be a hasta in the next kind of life? So my understanding of D9 is it's the chart who we're meant to evolve into kind of thing. It's a way to like evolve. So that's my short answer for what I think the Navamsha D9 chart is about. And I'm still learning, so thank you. Great question.
Appreciate that. We appreciate a new teacher coming in, someone who's newly passionate. There are so many people in this group who are trying to figure out what they love and where they could go. And so to hear someone teach who is on that path themselves, I think is really powerful for us as a group. And so I'm grateful for that. And again, it's so nice to get different points of view and see how people feel about it. So I am going to go ahead and wrap things up now. So please, if you have any other questions, please reach out to Crystal, or you can ask me and I'll get you hooked up with that. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your love and your passion and your knowledge. I hope lots of people take advantage of your amazing deal and then come back and talk to us about it in one of our Zen Zooms, because we love hearing how that works and all of those stories. And hopefully we'll have you back to focus on specific things, because it seems like a very vast topic. So thank you so much for being here today. As a reminder to all of you, we have a psychic development class tomorrow night on Monday with Kendara. We have all of our Zen Zooms all week long, so make sure you're checking that out. Again, it's Awkwardly Zen on Meetup, but you can find that on awkwardlyzen.com. Also, if you have not joined our online community, it's completely free. It's a cool way to tap in and connect with one another and ask your questions. And we also have an app coming, so get on there now online so that when the app comes, it's super easy to navigate. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here today, and we will see you next time. Bye, Crystal. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you
Crystal,
so much.
Thank you.